Happy Saturday and good afternoon to our 94.7 FM family. You are listening to Doctor2doctor In the Chatroom with Dr. Rhonda Shaw and Dr. Nicole West. We are so glad to have you guys back another Saturday. Hope you had a great Valentine's Day with your loved ones. We hope that you enjoyed our Girl Talk relationship show on last Saturday. That was so much fun. It's always great to have those ladies around and listen to their wisdom of relationships and all things related.
Yeah, I particularly loved just hearing about the longevity of their relationship.
Longevity and still liking each other.
Yes, and all of the things that even the part about COVID, we talked really briefly about how the divorce rate increased with COVID. And I loved how they said, well, my relationship, we actually got closer due to COVID. I thought that was beautiful.
Like we needed that time together.
Yes, to reconnect.
Yeah. So that's really good. It's always good to hear positive things because as you've mentioned, and you even mentioned a moment ago, the divorce rate has gone up, as a result of people being in each other's space so much, when they weren't accustomed to it. Maybe the distance and being having their own individual lives and their careers and all of those things are really the things that may have kept them together.
Right.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, because I really want to be in something that, I tell you this all the time, where I anticipate the person that I'm with.
Yeah.
Anticipate them and looking forward to it. Yeah. And they light up when they see me. Yeah.
Right. I was listening to somebody the other day talk about how they pull up in the driveway or the garage and they just have to sit there for a few minutes before they go in the house because it's not funny, but they just don't want to go in and be with the person that's in there. And I thought how horrible that must be to come home like that.
To not want to go home.
Yes.
To not want to go where you call home. And I think, a friend of mine and I were talking the other day about people allowing each other to be individuals.
Yeah.
And how important it is. I mean, because I don't care how much you have in common with somebody, everybody needs their own individual space, to just be a person,
Yeah.
It's great to be able to be a unit, but you still have to be an individual. Yeah.
Right. And so many people, I think, lose who they are when they get into a relationship, which can be just damaging to the relationship because then you don't, you came together as two separate people. And, a relationship, you join together, but you are still ultimately two separate people. You have to be. But I think that's where people kind of lose that sense of identity.
Yeah.
In relationships. So
we don't want to go too far without reminding our audience that we are still in the midst of a pandemic and we want you guys to be safe. We want you to enjoy each other, enjoy your family, your friends, and just get out and enjoy some Richard Pryor and put some sunshine on your face.
Yes.
But
put some sunshine on your mask.
On your mask.
Yes.
Keep that mask on, but put some sunshine on your face.
Yes.
And enjoy life as much as you can, but do what you need to do to stay safe, keep those around you safe, use those necessary precautions. I mean, there's so many good things coming up, music, comedy, so many things, family get-togethers. We want you guys to enjoy it all. We just want you to be around to talk about it. So
there you go. Yeah.
Stay safe, please. And we know that, vaccines aren't mandated or anything like that, but we just encourage the people that can. I do. We don't. I have to speak for me. We encourage the people that can get vaccinated, or if there's no reason why you shouldn't, to please do so. I always share that I have and I've been boosted because I do have underlying conditions, and I'm trying to be, safe, do what I need to do to stick around, and for those people that I love and care about, that I'm in their space. So,
right.
But I always say at the very least, you can put that mask on.
Yes.
Around others. Yeah.
Yep. And wear it correctly, unlike my Jackson, who every time I pick him up from school, it's under the nose.
It's not just Jackson. I mean, I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm regularly around some grown people that do the same thing, or just don't wear it at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're using for, I'm seeing a lot of people not wearing masks now.
Me too.
A lot of people, and I don't know what their take on this thing is. I was out with a friend last Sunday for brunch, and before I knew it, I jumped up from the table, without my mask, and I was like, man, I really need to go and get my mask, because I almost feel naked without it. But then on the other hand, when I need to remember it, I don't. I think I told you, I started now wearing it under my chin when I'm driving, just so I know when I get to the door of whatever business I'm going to, I got it, because most of the time I got to run back to the car.
Yep. And it's funny because sometimes I see people in the car by themselves and they have the mask on.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, why do you have the mask on? It's just you. But then that time I forget the mask when I'm at the door to a store. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is why.
Yeah, they are old like me, just trying to do what they can to make this thing work. Yeah. And I'll tell you something. I used to, if it was cold season, and people were getting, just the common cold or whatever, I would catch colds especially when I worked in schools and stuff. I've not had a lot of that at all since I've been wearing, I have to say, they've helped me through a whole lot of stuff.
Yep. I don't think I've been sick this entire year we just started, but even through the winter of last year, I don't think I've been sick at all. And it has to be because of the mask.
It has to be. And I think, we were talking about, I think everything's COVID now, though. It's like we don't even talk about the flu, common allergies, cold, or the flu, or allergies, or any of that anymore. Right. Everything's COVID. And I think I shared with you, my doctor didn't even want me to get the flu shot, because she was saying, well, we're so far into the flu season, it's just kind of doesn't make sense. And I'm like, thank God, because I never got those anyway. So, but I'm just about ready to just give me a shot. I just want to live, right? So I'm serious. I want to try this. My grandmother used to say, run on and see what the end's gonna be. Because
yes, exactly.
There's a lot of stuff going. There's a lot of moving pieces right now.
Yeah. And I know we're all tired. We all have pandemic fatigue, but the reality is we're still here. We're still in it. So
yeah.
I'll just keep fighting, keep striving, and keep wearing that mask.
So here's what I would like to do. I would love to stay in this whole vein of this theme of love and relationships. And I wish that we had more time last week, and we all vowed that we would come back together and continue the discussion, because we kind of left off on a real high note, but one of a bit of maybe controversial kind of stuff that we really didn't get a chance to dig into. But just for the sake of love and relationships, okay, I want to start with what love is. Last week, I asked the ladies, so when you say I love you to your partner, what do you really mean? And they were saying things like, I love you unconditionally, because, Jan even broke it down and say, but, there are conditions, because we say we want this and we want that. I want to talk about what love is. And I was thinking about all of the different virtues in the world. And even though each of them are morally good and valued as a foundation of principle and good, just good moral being, I think the greatest of them, and in fact, Corinthians says that the greatest of these is love. I think it's the greatest virtue, and I think it's the most beautiful of all.
Yeah.
Corinthians says that doing something or anything that you can do, if you do it without the presence of love, is useless. It even says that you can know everything or think you know everything. You can have faith alone, but without love, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It tells us that it's only through love that we can actually gain something, because love is like showing empathy and true, sincere concern for others, rather than being, motivated by self-interest and personal gratification.
Right.
So the center of our actions, when we do things, we should do them. Our actions should be done in love.
Out of love. Yeah.
So here, or out of love. So here's how Corinthians 13 starts, okay? It starts with, and I'm not doing the King James version of this. It says, if I could speak all the languages of the earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all the knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but I didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing.
Yeah.
But then it goes on to say, and this is how I like to define love. This is how Rhonda likes to define it. Of course, I do not take credit. This comes from Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, and it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. That's how I see love. That's 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. That's how I see love.
Yeah, that's such a perfect definition of what love is and what it looks like. And maybe not something that we're taught unless we are, brought up reading or having the word read to us as we were, growing up. But all of these things, patient, kind, doesn't boast, isn't proud, doesn't dishonor. I mean, I wonder, we talked a little bit earlier about the divorce rate being really high. I think it's somewhere about 50%. But just thinking about all of the ways that love is described in Corinthians, I wonder how many of those things fall by the wayside when things go wrong in a relationship or in a marriage, or how many of those things are forgotten when we...
I would say most, because I think to love like this, you have to be so freaking intentional.
Yeah.
Like
you really do.
When stuff is happening or going on, because there are gonna be some happenings, because ain't nobody perfect, right? And when things are going on, you almost have to take the time to stop and say, you know
Yeah.
what? Am I being patient?
Yeah.
You know what? Am I keeping record of the wrongs?
Right.
You know, am I setting my partner up to be able to trust?
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to hear your view on what patient love looks like, because I think that we're so quick to take things out of context, especially when sometimes when we want to benefit ourselves,
Yeah.
and we make it mean what we want it to mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so that reminds me of something that one of the ladies last week said.
Mhm.
Unconditional love, does that mean someone gets to cheat and then you just keep taking them back and taking them back because it's
Yeah.
unconditional?
Mhm.
And I think maybe that's where Jan said, no, that's not what unconditional means.
Mhm.
So I kind of look at patience as the same kind of idea. Does me being patient mean, that I don't have any requirements, any
Mhm.
standards that the person gets to continue to be, I don't know, let's just say disrespectful.
Mhm.
And I'm going to continue to be
Mhm.
patient with that behavior.
Mhm.
That's not what it means to me.
Mhm.
Patience means giving grace to the other
Mm.
person, extending grace, allowing them to make mistakes, allowing them to become better, grow, mature, and understanding that they might falter.
Yeah, you said off air, you were telling me earlier, you were saying something about, especially if you know this person is in a mode of self-improvement and they're really working
Yeah.
on themselves,
Yep.
then if you know that, if you believe that and you trust that, then you're going to
Yeah.
be patient
Yep.
to give them time.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you love that person, then you understand that loving them is loving them through the bad and the good.
Mhm.
And sometimes the bad looks like needing time to become better. And
Mhm.
so you can extend that patience, extend that grace as they become better if you truly love that person.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's how.
yeah. Um, you are listening to Doctor in the Chat Room with Rhonda and Nicole. We will be right back from break in a moment. And we're back on 94.7 FM with Dr. Nicole West and Dr. Rhonda Shaw. We're talking love and relationships. We're in the spirit of love still. Let's stay right here for a moment. So that's the mushy, gooey definition of love. But what I find interesting is that science side of love that most people don't think about, right? Because we say we have all these feelings and emotions and you ever thought, I used to say this all the time, if people could control their feelings, no one would get hurt. Right. Because we would totally choose not to be hurt, right? Nobody wants to hurt. So you would just say, you know what? He or she doesn't want me anymore. They're not going to treat me right. So I'm just going to turn this off. No more feelings for that person. Yeah. But it doesn't work like that, because there's actually a science to it. Yeah. I want you to talk about that part of love.
So here's an interesting thought. I'm reading this article that says the brain, not the heart, is responsible for romantic love. Isn't that so interesting? Because we all, when we talk about love, when we think about love, we think about our heart. My heart, aches when I'm not around the person or when I have to be away. My
it hurts so bad. I would, pull yourself together, but it hurts so bad.
Yes, my heart's broken. And we think about love in terms of the heart. But this article written by Dr. Helen Fisher at Harvard University, she says that the brain, not the heart, is the one that's responsible for romantic love. And that love can be broken down into 3 different categories. So we're going to talk about those 3 today. The first being lust, the second being attraction, and then the third being attachment. So we all understand, we all understand lust. You know, that's that primal kind of evolutionary inherent need to reproduce, you know, to keep mankind going. That is the part of love that, you know, flees and however long, right? It doesn't linger, doesn't stay, doesn't mature, doesn't grow. That is not the part of love that most of us long to have, you know, long term. Of course, you want to be attracted to the person long term, but you know, the lust is just that, just lust.
Yeah.
The second one is attraction. So that accompanies a variety of different emotions, right, with regard to a specific person. And when we are attracted to somebody, we have a release of different hormones and chemicals in our brain, mainly dopamine and norepinephrine. And these are the chemicals that, you know, make us giddy, happy, excited to see a person. You know, those are all the hormones that kind of make us excited about seeing that person, nervous, having butterflies in our stomach when we think about them. One really interesting part, though, is another hormone called serotonin. That one is responsible for that kind of obsessive, that infatuation that we tend to have when we first, you know, fall in love, or, you know, we first meet this person that we are just so connected to. And serotonin, funny enough, is found in low levels of people that have been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder.
Oh, Sarah. I like to call serotonin, oh, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. So, you know, she is the one that's responsible for that aching, that yearning, that I have to be with this person, or I have to, you know, get as much time with this person as possible. That y'all remember when you first started dating somebody and you stay up all night on the phone, and even though both of y'all are tired, have to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, that is because of those hormones that are released in
Andrew
our brain.
The entertainer said, you sleep? No, I ain't sleep. I'm sleeping, but I ain't sleep.
Right. Yep.
What did you say earlier? You hang up. I ain't hanging up. You hang up first.
Right. Yes. That whole back and forth about who's gonna hang up first. Both of y'all need to hang up and go on to bed. That is good old Sarah working in our brains, making us just, you know, feel so connected and infatuated with the other person. So that's attraction. Now, the third aspect of love that this article talks about is attachment. Now, attachment is responsible for, you know, the intimacy in the relationship. It is that key factor in long-term relationships, that relationship that kind of sustains and makes it through hard times. That is what that's what I think we all kind of long for when we think about being in love and spending life, you know, with somebody, is that attachment piece. I think that's what we're talking about when we want to get married and live happily ever after. We're talking about that attachment aspect of love. So very interesting stuff when we think about, because we don't really talk about these 3 phases of love. I think we talk a lot about that initial phase, you know, that everybody's excited to see the other person, and, you know, you can't wait to get off work to go on a date. And we talk about that part of love, but we don't really talk much about, you know, how to sustain it and how to continue to, like the ladies last week said, like your partner after
Mhm.
20 years.
So I was reading an article that kind of talked about how similar lust and love are in terms of what they do in the brain.
Oh.
It was like discerning between them is difficult because the two phenomena activate similar neural pathways in the vein, in the brain rather, that are involved in the view of self, goal-directed behavior, happiness, reward, and addiction. They both do, but like, how do you tell the difference though? So you ask yourself questions like, why are you interested in this relationship? You know, because lust alone is interest only in your partner, like physically.
Yeah.
But a love interest would be more in getting to know the person over time. Ask yourself, are you open to the hard work? Because lust attempts to keep the relationship on a, you know, ideal level, but love, as you said, expands to like having those difficult conversations, exploring painful emotions. How do you feel about the person's flaws?
Oh, that's a good one.
If it's lust, then you're going to lose interest, you know,
Yeah.
when you discover that they have certain flaws.
Yeah.
So this is that part when they were trying to distinguish the unconditional piece, because love will accept a person's positive and negative qualities.
Right.
And then you talked about, you know, that attachment over time. Does the relationship get better over time? Because lust will be like an immediate gratification.
Yeah.
And love is just going to continue to develop and evolve. You'll become, you know, the trust will build, the commitment will build. Where is the thrill coming from? Lust enjoys that, you know, fantasy of the excitement and the interaction physically, but love will feel risky and vulnerable because it involves opening yourself up and letting yourself be known for who you are.
Wow.
So you and I have talked about, before you get to that attachment phase, right? You got to be totally, well, you should be. We should be honest before we get to an attachment phase. Whatever we need to lay out on the table. How did you say it when you were telling me, like, give people options?
Right. Yes.
Don't wait
give
till
people the option. Yes. To decide whether or not they want to carry on and deal with your stuff. And let them know that before they get really, you know, attached to.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Lust. So how secure are you in the relationship? How secure do you feel? So lust can be really impulsive and desperate, but love will tend more to steady and secure. You feel back to being protected, you know, because we're not talking about just physical protection. We're talking about protecting someone's psyche.
Yes. Yes. And their emotional well-being and all of that. All, you know, the wanting that person to be okay in their heart, in their mind, in their, you know, thinking. That's love. Lust could care less about any of that.
See, that's why we have to be so careful about, you know, like, I think the attachment thing is key. We have to be so careful about, because we get into relationships, and if they are of any length, we do become attached to people or whatever. And then we walk away from relationships, and then we have to decide, how do we manage those relationships, particularly when we're moving on to other relationships. You said something to me one day, and I can't remember how you put it. And I think the the operative word was the romantic attachment,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but you know, so when we move away
Mm-hmm.
from those romantically based relationships, then
Mm-hmm.
there becomes a boundary as it relates to attachment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when you are attaching yourself to a new relationship, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be that boundary with the previous romantically involved partners. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people say, oh, you could be friends, you can still be friends. And I don't know.
And you can be friends if you know how to define it and
Mm-hmm.
what it, you know, and what it looks like. It has boundaries. It doesn't look like it once looked, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And but isn't that hard for, like, what if both people may not be on the same page about what the friendship looks like? You know what I
They
mean?
aren't going
Like,
to be. So, you know, my brother and I talked about this.
mm-hmm.
And that's why there has to be a boundary, because what are the chances of both people being on the same page?
That's exactly, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, what are the odds? I mean, yeah, you can have an understanding,
Yep.
but both people aren't going to be on the same page. And
Right.
and not if, and because there's a person that's not on that understanding page of we are no longer, that lines get crossed.
Yes. Very easily.
Whether people buy into them or not, you know, lines get crossed. Um, here's another question as it relates to love versus lust.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel obsessed? Like lust is a high, you know, that can feel like an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it consumes like all your mental space.
Yeah.
Because it's so closely linked to infatuation.
Yeah.
Love, on the other hand, holds more of a balanced perspective, and it allows for the ability to maintain a balanced life. And that's when we talked about being
Yes.
individuals,
Yes.
allowing
Yep.
people to be individuals. Is there longevity? Because lust will definitely disappear over time and love will persist.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the stages of romantic love are what you just said: lust, attraction, and attachment. Why? Because we all say, well, the first thing you do is see the person, and you know, and you see the physical, and you have that physical, you know.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end up being the foundation of what defines
right
the relationship.
Yeah. It can't be, because once that fades, what else is there? What if you haven't, cultivated some sort of connection with each other, or haven't developed what you have in common, or communication styles, you don't have anything to fall back on to call it a relationship once the lust ends.
Do you realize how many people get stuck in phases?
Oh, wow.
Like, that might not make it to attachment, right? They might get stuck in lust.
Yeah.
They might get stuck in attraction.
Uh-huh. And just never move to anything. What's the word? Not substantial, but of substance, maybe.
Because, and then people are trying to figure out like what's wrong. Like, we used to, we always, we were always this, we were now all of a sudden we don't this anymore, and we don't that anymore. They get stuck in phases,
right?
Or stages, and don't even know it.
Yeah,
Just
I've never
going,
really thought about that.
Yeah, just going in circles trying to figure out what happened.
Right.
And you remember I used the word addiction with lust?
Uh-huh.
And so people that get stuck in that phase, that's what it is. They don't want to let that part go. They don't want to walk away from that part, but they think it's love.
Right. And we all know addiction is unhealthy.
Addiction. It's addiction.
You know. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't need to be addicted to anything.
At all. Or anybody.
It's the little girl on Facebook says, period.
Is that the little one that says, baby?
Baby, period. No. Oh, let's talk more about love when we come back from break on Doctor to Doctor, the chat room. We'll be right back, guys. And we're back on 94.7 FM. All things relationships and love. I love talking about love. Don't you?
Love is amazing.
It is.
When it is healthy and mutual and respectful. Yes, love is amazing.
Yeah.
It is when it is unhealthy or sometimes, you know, love can be hard. Love is something that you have to work at every single day. I mean, I think it's a genuine feeling, right, that you can share with one another. But I guess it's what we were saying earlier. It's about being intentional with it. And so this brings me to our next discussion points. So emotional integrity in love.
Okay.
What does that mean? So we've talked about emotional intelligence
yes.
a time or two before. And
emotional manipulation.
Yes, we've talked a lot about that.
Uh-huh.
But emotional integrity is really just being true to your own emotions, I think, and being true to what your partner's emotions might be. So here are some signs that a relationship might lack that emotional integrity.
Okay.
So one of them is claiming that you aren't angry or that you aren't hurt when in fact you really are. Or saying nothing's wrong when something clearly is.
That's women most of the time.
Yeah, and
unfortunately,
I'm guilty. I have done it before. I have said nothing is wrong when I know that something is for sure wrong. And it's usually because, you know, I think as women, we want our partners to know what's wrong. We don't want to have to explain it. Because I think if we have to explain it, then that means somehow that you aren't in tune enough with my emotions or with me. And maybe that's not the case, but I think that's what we assume. If I have to tell you what's wrong, that means you weren't paying attention, right?
You know, I'm so big on communication. You know that about me. Like, I'll talk to a wall if they'll talk back. But if that wall will talk back to me. However, what I do know about me as well is that if I think you either don't want to really talk through things, or if I learn that I gotta be prepared, like I'm going to be a defense lawyer.
Yes.
Because I'm getting ready to talk to somebody that truly isn't accountable,
Right.
and that they're going to come with every excuse in the book, or they're going to flip the script, or they're going to,
Yep.
if I got to go into that, I'll totally shut down and won't go at all.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
because I don't like wasting my time, and I don't like anybody insulting me. I won't
Yeah.
even say yes, I'm gonna say insulting my intelligence, but I ain't talking about no book sense stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm talking about, yeah. So if that's what I gotta do, then no, I just let it go.
Yeah.
Which may even align with what you're saying. We want to know that we as women want to know that our partners are in tune with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in tune with me, and if you are back to that initial definition that we talked about, if you really want to protect me, and if you want me to always trust,
yeah,
it's got to start there in that communication piece.
that's it. Yeah. Yep. I was going to say exactly that. It comes back to the communication. If there is something wrong, even if we as women want them to know what's wrong without us saying it.
Which I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying that that's fair,
Right,
because I mean,
right,
they're not
it's
mind
not.
readers. Yeah, but
They're not. They're not. But it does come back to that communication. And I will say that, and I might totally contradict myself here just based on what I said about how I do this. But one of my pet peeves is, if there is something wrong, say it. My pet peeves about other people doing that to me, even though I just said I know that I do it too. But it's one of the things that even I found in my previous marriage, that if there's something wrong, let's talk about it. Let's not avoid it. Let's not pretend it didn't happen. Let's not just sweep it under the rug. Like, let's talk about it, because avoiding it is pointless, because it always comes back up, maybe in a different topic, a different way, but it always comes back up.
It'll usually come back up in behavior, in terms of the way, I'm the kind of person, I'll try. Like I said, I even try with that brick wall, right? And I'll try to talk or whatever, but if I keep talking and I see that again, we ain't getting nowhere with this, then I feel like I have to go inward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ask myself, what do I need to do for me now? I don't know if that makes sense, but I started trying to make decisions about, you know what? I don't want to, sometimes what you need, or what you want, or whatever. I mean, like if you can get to that attachment phase, or somewhere between the attraction and the attachment, and you're trying to feel your way and navigate your way through in the relationship. And if there isn't a coming together on important things, you have to make a decision about, hey, is this where I need to be going? Because you don't,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this was a recent discussion that I've had. I mean, you can say how something makes you feel, or something that you want, or something that you don't want, or whatever. But depending on how strongly the other person feels about it, if they adapt, meet your needs, and it's not done out of love,
yeah,
then it only breeds resentment.
Yes.
If love ain't in it, back to what I said earlier, but without love, it's nothing.
Yep.
Because when it's love, and when it's, real love, you won't feel that. You won't feel resentment.
Right.
When it's real love, you won't even feel like you're having to be all that vulnerable or risky.
Yeah. It won't feel like a risk. Yeah. Which that brings us to the second sign of a lack of emotional intelligence or integrity in the relationship is if you try to hide your mistakes or weaknesses from each other. And I think you said that if you don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're gonna try to hide those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like you said about love, it's patient, it's kind, it's enduring.
Mm-hmm.
So when you love somebody, all of that comes with it. And when you really share those words that describe love, it will automatically make the other person feel like they don't have to hide their mistakes, their weaknesses. They will feel free to be vulnerable, safe to be vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about basically getting two people together that feel that free to love.
Hmm. Yeah.
Getting two
Yes.
people together that feel that intentional, that want to be that intentional about loving.
Yep.
And again, I think people, 50% divorce rate, that's unfortunate, but I've been saying this almost on every show. I think the pandemic has put things in perspective for a lot of people.
Yeah.
People have learned, yeah, I was doing it for 20 years, but
Hmm.
I was stuck in the wrong phase or the
Yeah.
wrong stage of it or whatever.
Hmm.
Because, you were talking about, oh, I'm at 40's door and
Hmm.
if I'm gonna do it, it's gotta be this and it's gotta be
Yeah.
that. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
if at 55 for sure. I almost 56. I just can't even. But you say I can't
Yeah.
even.
I can't even. It's gotta be right. Like you not getting into a relationship just to be in one. I mean, I don't know, when you're 20, you can do that, I guess, but not at 40. Why? Not just to say you're in one.
Mm-hmm.
I want the real thing. I want all of those words that we just read in Corinthians.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now I know how to
Implement
be in
that.
yes, to
Mm-hmm.
be intentional about it. If there is a disagreement or hard times or challenges, I wanna challenge everybody to, when you get into those places, go read Corinthians
Yeah, and
and
as Kwachi said, sometimes there has to be a reset
yeah,
because we're
yeah,
human beings.
and yeah. Hmm.
We bring all kinds of stuff, stuff from the workday,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, but like you say, go read it or at least mentally review it,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
moment. But it's just got to be something that people want. And people say love is hard. I like to say real love is easy. That's what
Hmm.
I believe. I just think it's getting the right two people in the same space, head space at the same time,
Yeah.
ready to take that journey together and excited about the journey.
Hmm.
All the skepticisms are red flags for me.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think I say that because now I do understand love better. I
Hmm.
don't have this perfect understanding of it, but I just feel like, if you really love somebody and you can believe that they love you in the same, manner,
Hmm.
so to speak,
Hmm.
why would you be skeptical?
Wow.
Unless it's something you're feeling that ain't quite right.
Right. And maybe that's what we talked about last show, was that those red flags that maybe are coming back
Mm-hmm.
to say, hey, you ignored me in the beginning. Here I am.
Here I am. I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last two are kind of similar. Avoiding sharing things that could be hurtful to the other, or finding yourself hiding your true feelings about something about your partner. And I think we talked about, and this, this was kind of funny, but we had talked about a friend wanting to know how they should tell their significant other that their breath, things, something about them was not, right. Like maybe they didn't like their attire, the way that they dressed, or didn't like the type of makeup that they wore or the amount of makeup that they wore. How do you tell somebody something about their physical appearance that you just don't like? I feel like that's such a hard thing to do, because you really don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. But if it's something that really bothers you, how do you say it in a way that, doesn't offend?
Here's one. I think, sometimes the way people handle their family or don't handle their family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a married couple, and let's say you're married and your husband is always loaning money to family members.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Let's say it's his mom. But, from where you sit, mom is using, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be a kind of touchy situation, when it's somebody's mom. But I just feel like, as a husband and wife, you ought to be able to be totally transparent about, whatever. Yeah. I don't, the dressing thing, I think women can get away with that with guys more than guys can with women, because, we can kind of say, hey, honey, I'm going to go pick up some stuff, and, we can kind of dress them and whatever, but they start trying to tell us that, we'll be real offended.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, especially when you might be new to dating each other. Oh, that's hard. That's offensive right there. Like, so yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah.
But the other part about, being married and having to navigate those kinds of things that you were just talking about, that's hard too. Difficult conversations to have. But again, when you love the person and you can be patient with them and you can be kind and all of that, it should be able to be worked out.
I really think we're supposed to love that way in Corinthians, overall. I think we're supposed to love our fellow man that way. And okay, God, I'm gonna try, God. Try that. I am. Work in progress. And, I definitely love everybody, for sure, in that way that I have to generally love everyone. But Corinthians love,
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it. And I want to be there. That's the thing. I want to be there.
Yeah.
But let me love that one person like that first. Then I work on the rest of y'all.
Right. Okay. Especially the ones that gets on your nerves. Those are the ones that are hard. But that's all right. Did you take up by the hour again? Isn't it crazy how fast it goes? This is the fastest hour of my entire week. Everything else can drag, but this show goes by fast.
Yeah, I posted on Facebook not long ago. I wish Zoom had that Oscars music. Wrap it up.
Right. Yeah.
That's for work purposes only.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, the hour has gone. We will be back next Saturday at the same hour, same chat time, same chat channel. We'll see you guys here on Doctor to Doctor next Saturday on 94.7 FM.